Welcome to SASQUATCH Crossings. Real encounters, real witnesses, and in tonight's episode, a story that shook a U.S. Army sergeant more deeply than combat ever did. This is the French Gulch Intimidation. June 1991, Shasta County, California. A half moon hanging over the ridgelines. Pine forest stretching into the dark. And a father retracing the footsteps of his own childhood. He'd grown up near Shasta Dam. He remembered these woods, the old mining roads, the deep wilderness north of French Gulch, the eerie sounds he heard as a boy when his father brought him out there. Now, decades later, fresh out of the army, he wanted to show his 7-year-old son the same backcountry he once explored. They left Redding late in the evening, following the winding road past Whiskeytown Lake, through the old town of French Gulch, and deep into the mountains where the pavement ends and the forest begins. The night was clear, stars sharp enough to touch, the moon lighting the cliffs just enough to make the drop-offs terrifying. After hours of driving, he found what he was looking for. A remote stretch of road littered with massive pine cones, the kind he remembered collecting as a kid. He turned the truck around, left the headlights on, opened the camper shell, and began gathering cones. His son slept in the passenger seat. The forest was silent, still, watching. He bent down to grab another pine cone and froze. A sound tore through the night, a screech so sharp, so unnatural, so close, that it hit him like a physical blow. Not an elk, not a mountain lion, not anything he'd heard in all his years in the wilderness. Then came the thumping. Heavy, deliberate. 2 massive footfalls slamming into the ground as something charged down the steep ridge to his right. He dropped the pine cones, ran for the driver's door. He fumbled with the handle as his hands were shaking and his heart pounding. The thumping grew louder, came closer and fast. He dove into the truck, slammed the door, turned the key, and the engine roared to life just as something reached the back of the vehicle. His son jolted awake as the truck lurched forward. "Dad, watch out." He swerved, nearly drove off the road, barely missed a fallen log. And in the red glow of the taillights, he saw it. A figure. Tall, broad, covered in dark, shaggy hair, standing upright behind the truck. He could only see it from the shoulders down. The open camper shell blocked the rest. But what he saw was enough to shake him to the core of his being. Massive arms, one hanging low, the other lifting as if mid-stride. Muscles shifting beneath the fur. A reddish tint from the taillights, catching the edges of its form. It stood there for 5 long seconds. 5 seconds that felt like a lifetime. And then the truck shot forward, tires spitting gravel, the forest blurring past as he barreled down the mountain, faster than he'd ever driven in his entire life. His son clung to the seat wide-eyed, asking what happened. He couldn't answer him. Not yet. Not until the adrenaline faded and the sun began to rise over French Gulch. They reached town at dawn, He slept for an hour in the truck, woke up shaking, and drove straight back to Reading. His son teased him, "Dad, it was probably just a bear." But even at 7 years old, the boy remembered how terrified his father had been. And years later, as a grown man, he still remembered. The witness was a combat veteran. He'd faced the unknown before, in Korea, in the Mojave, in moments where war felt inches away. But nothing had ever shaken him like that night above French Gulch. The screech, the charging footsteps, the silhouette in the tail lights, the overwhelming sense that he had trespassed on something's territory. Something that did not want him there. He never went back alone. He never forgot the sound. And he never again doubted the stories his Choctaw grandmother told him about the beings that lived deep in the mountains. This has been SASQUATCH Crossings, Episode 5, The French Gulch Intimidation, loosely based on real events dramatized for presentation. The core encounter remains true. Real stories, real encounters, real quiet.